today we're at the Victoria and Albert Museum in Kensington, South Kensington, and I thought I'd just show you some of the Buddhist relics they've got in there, which is most interesting. This is all new. Strangely enough, the founder of Buddhism in Britain, he was a guy called Christmas Humphreys, who wrote a book called Buddhism in Britain, and he was a top judge who worked at the Old Bailey, and he's known for sending Ruth Ellis, who was an attractive English blonde lady. She was the last woman to be hung in Britain. Christmas Humphreys gave her the sentence of death. Apparently not because he wanted to, because in Buddhism all life is sacred. She shot the boyfriend, and I think in France it would have been called a crime of passion. But Ruth Ellis, they made a movie, it was called Crime of Passion, with Rupert Everett and, was it Miranda Richardson? Ruth Ellis was a very attractive English woman. She was a model at one time, and her legacy is, very sad, she was the last English woman, the last woman to be hung in the UK. And it's worth seeing that movie. It's called Dance with a Stranger, if you get the chance to see it. Christmas Humphreys, the book's worth a read as well. Yeah, could be. This is the Buddhist department. You can see some of the really beautiful Buddhist relics here. And I was just saying that the government of India and Sri Lanka offered to buy the Buddhist statues in Afghanistan and Pakistan, but the Taliban blew them up apparently. So, believe it or not, both Afghanistan and Pakistan apparently, I think Bangladesh were all Buddhist countries at one time, believe it or not, a long time ago. A lot of these Buddhist statues seem very sort of similar to Hindu ones. So it's a fascinating place to come for Buddhist art. Some of it very old relics. So yeah, in Buddhism they have the Bodhi tree, which is the tree of enlightenment, where Buddha sat down. And, so I don't think this is Buddhism. This is more, I think, more British and European. So it's a fascinating place to come if you've never been here, the V&A. Jean-Baptiste. Down here, South Asia, yeah. So I think the V&A is more of a museum where you don't get so much British art, and you get more art from our colonies, or our former colonies in India and Asia and wherever the British were. Sure, this one from Pakistan, the Punjab silk embroidered. Singh. Fascinating stuff. He employed European mercenary officers to train his army with brilliance, as well extending his frontiers. He skillfully avoided confrontation with the British. Fascinating. Sikhs. A formidable force in India, the Sikhs. Some of this jewellery, Rose, reminds me of like Celtic jewellery. I don't know if you've ever been to the Natural History Museum, the British Museum. Some of this is very similar, Celtic jewellery. And the women, it was like metal they had around their necks, apparently it was Celtic. The one time the Celts were all over Europe. Oh yeah, beautiful, yeah. Intricate detail with those colours, you know. Artifacts from India. So the British were in India for over 200 years, so we brought quite a lot back. Little teapots. And you've never been to India, have you? But it's a fantastic place if you like sheets, you know, linen and all sorts of cloths. Oh, this is fascinating. This, I think, is the British officer who... This is fascinating. Tipu's tiger. Tipu Sultan was killed when the East India Company stormed Seringapatam in 1799. Soldiers looted the city and parts of the palace. So I think this was a sign of defiance with the Indian attacking a British officer after the very, very famous wooden artefact. The wooden tiger with an organ inside its body was discovered in the palace's music room and shipped to London. One of the most popular exhibits in the company's because the East India Company was basically a private company that controlled India from just near Canary Wharf. Fascinating. I always wanted to see this. Yeah, fascinating. One thing I noticed when I was in India was the amount of Georgian architecture that was there. It would have been during the Georgian period, like lots of columns similar to sorts of Buckingham Palace and that sort of design. Very sort of late Georgian architecture. The British in India. The British began to arrive in India in the early 17th century as the staff of coastal factories and trading depots, following the foundation of the East India Company in 1600. There you go. So it's a fascinating legacy. I mean, how we did it, I'll never know. I mean, the ships of the line, and you've got to remember, our ships were only carried by the wind in those days. So, and some of those sails were the size of football pitches. And they could knock off 200 miles a day. So if they were going to, say, take in our army to fight Washington, they could knock off 200 miles a day and get to New York in 2 weeks, which I think was pretty impressive. And this was before the age of steam. Sitars. Do you like the sound of the sitar? The Beatles used it in a few of their tracks in the Sgt. Pepper's album. Beautiful carpet. Colourful art. And if you want to buy carpets in India, it's so much cheaper, linen and curtains and beautiful sort of linen, This is Samuel Pepys.
What's happening?
I don't know. It's some sort of Hindu sort of design, I think. Some Holland, yeah. They say that India and England had a love affair. I'm not too sure. This is sort of Victorian building, I believe, and very, very big. I prefer Georgian architecture. It's more easy on the eye, like Somerset House. Victorian's more sort of Gothic and complicated sort of architecture. This is Nabob Umdat Il Mulk. I can't really. The warrior caste. Sikhs. The Sikhs were mainly the warrior caste, like, you know, because in India they got the caste system. Rajasthan. I've always wanted to go to Rajasthan. See all this. Sikh people. It's almost like a form of, like, as Darwin would say, sort of selective breeding, because they got the biggest people. If you look at most Sikhs, they're very athletic, like very sort of strong people, you know, and they had to be to fight off the Mughals, you know.
The dress and clothes?
Oh yeah, look at it. Oh, come on. Very opulent, isn't it?
LGBT.
Ah,
Very LGBT.
very what?
LGBT?
Not in those days. I doubt that very much. I don't think so. More macho. Look. In India, the Indian women were Indian. Gunga Din. You know who Gunga Din was? He was the chief charwala for the British Army, and apparently, which made tea for the British Army, I believe. It's Gunga Din. I'm pretty sure that the Asian dress, the Indian dress, was probably influenced by the British. When you look at that, I mean, it's not exactly a sari, is it? It's probably got European influence there somewhere. Combine both Muslim and Hindu traditions. Mughal courts. I was just saying, you can see some sort of European influence in that, can't you? Really, it's not just like a normal sari, is it? This is a sort of tapestry. You can look at that. God, it must take hours to do that. God. Original stones. So then there you've got the Islamic and Middle Eastern section.
Finish and then we go.
Yeah, sure. One thing about India, the food was great. They had nice vegetarian food, and the tea was lovely. I don't know what they put in it, but it was very nice tea. Some of these jewels, like the crown jewels that you see in the town, they're not the originals. They use, they're too priceless. It's fascinating. So the British carved up India. Look, so this is the way it was in 1600. The Mughal Empire in relation to neighbours. By 1680, the Mughals had also conquered the lands of the Muslim rulers of the Deccan to the south. Mughal control over the vast territories gradually weakened in the following decades, and the provinces became increasingly independent. Political boundaries then shifted constantly under the eventual imposition of British rule. So basically, from what I know, there was no Pakistan until the British divided it up, different sort of kingdoms. And I think from what I know, they considered it safer to divide the different religions. So where was I? I was just up here in the mountains near Rishikesh, by the Himalayas. So I'd have been, where is it? There's Lahore. This is difficult to say. There's different Mughal Empire in those days. See that? And it's amazing with all that Islamic influence. You know, you go to a city called Agra, where the Taj Mahal is. You know, they've got this massive red fortress, which is obviously built by the Mughals, and yet the Hindu culture and the Hindu religion is still very predominant. You know, despite being surrounded by so much Mughal Muslim architecture, similar to what you see in Spain. If you go to Andalusia, if you go, you know Andalusia, Rosa. If you go to Andalusia, you see Mughal Muslim architecture. You know the Alhambra and all that. Similar, very similar to what you see in India. Because I think the word for shirts in Spanish is camisa. Camisa. So the Punjabi word is kameez. So you can see it's probably brought there by the gypsy people. They're brilliant with tapestry and linen, and I brought a little relic for the Taj Mahal, and they all chip it out piece by piece. They're brilliant at all that. There we go, the Mughal dynasty. Similar to Spain, you see all those columns, the Alhambra. Have you been to Alhambra? Very similar, yeah. This is similar. Fascinating. This is Mughal mosaic flooring. So much history. So this is the Islamic section. Genghis Khan, etc. Look at that. Quran. Now you want to see a nice carpet? Look at that. That's the carpet. God. The light in here is not so good, so you may not see it very well, but God, I mean, quite a few hours work gone into that. Fit for a palace.
E poi c'è i pigmenti. La posizione con l'uovo. Eh sì, con il rosso d'uovo. Perché col rosso?
There's a lot of stuff in here from Iran, 9th century pots. Calligraphy. The basis of Islam is the divine revelation in Arabic contained in the Quran. The supreme importance of this text contributed greatly to the high status of Arabic calligraphy in Islamic art. Let's see here, this is China. You can see that's been through a kiln. All this has gone through a kiln. Geometry. Lots of plates. I noticed the material on these Islamic carpets is always very sort of thin. It's not exactly like we have two companies in the UK, Ackminster and Saxony, which are very beautiful carpets, but the shag pile on them is very, very thick. Unlike this, you can see it's very, very thin. Different sort of style. It's like a big fireplace. Yeah. Brass door fitting. That must have been a big door. Yeah, so much to see here. You know, you've got a good day's viewing here if you want to see it. And also the garden is worth a look. It's a bit wet today, which is unusual for this country, but you see what I mean by the Victorian architecture, you know, very sort of Gothic. And it's no surprise that Queen Victoria, being German, basically, she spoke German better than English apparently, it took on a much more Gothic feel than the earlier Georgian architecture of the 18th century. It's just, I prefer the Georgian. Shame it's so wet. We've had a lot of rain. It's been a very good year for water in the UK. This is it. Isn't it amazing, you know, they talk about pornography, you know, in the visual art, in the photography, that would be pornography, but when it's done on a statue, it's not. Can you explain that to me? You didn't think that was me up there, did you, for a minute? Not me, no. The heads of state, here we are. Who's this? Christy Houston, Thomas Gascoigne, I've never heard of him. It makes you wonder how they brought all this over from other countries, doesn't it? You know, look at that. Jesus Christ. What we did really was nothing short of a miracle, really, was it? More of a Celtic cross. It's like being in a gigantic cemetery. This was Arts, Cumbria. Church in Cumbria, oh that's UK, right. Norsemen, are these Scandinavians. Where the hell did this thing come from? Look at that. Came from somewhere around Romania apparently, so they lugged it all the way over here. God. Monument, Duke of Saxony and Archbishop of Magdeburg, Saxony. That's where the English came from, Upper and Lower Saxony. Ernst Juice of Saxony. Must have taken decades to do this. If you're going to have a monument to a war or a battle, I suppose it's best to do it big, because centuries later people think, oh, it must have been something really significant. It's like the gallery of the deceased here. Gallery of the deceased. But this is what I think you say is a Norman soldier, by the looks of it. These are amazing. God. Unknown Knights. Temple Church, London. Oh, these are British. Yeah. I know, tell the soldier's uniform by watching Robin Hood over the years, you know. Difference between a Saxon and a Norman uniform. The Normans weren't really French; they were Norsemen. Did you know that the Normans weren't French? They were Vikings who settled in France around the 7th century. Apparently, they were Norsemen. This a bit like Pizza, Leaning Tower of Pizza. So this would have been all before the Reformation, when Britain was still a Catholic country, and a lot of my ancestors would have still been in France as Huguenots before we came here. Looks like they've got part of a church there. Look, Rosa, see that? It looks like just they've taken. They must have exported it in pieces, bits and pieces. Yeah, yeah. Most of this is British. This is from parts of Britain. Yeah. Damascus, yeah, Damascus, yeah. Yeah, this thing, I think this one was somewhere near Romania, I believe. This is gold-plated. I did hear, I don't know if it's true, I heard that the Mormon church is the richest church in the world. I'm not sure if that's true, but if you go to Utah, they've got not just gold-plated roofs, but actual gold roofs. You'd think so, wouldn't you? But I heard it was a Mormon, because I think they give 60% of their wages to the church in the Mormon religion. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this was all done when we were Catholics still, I would imagine. Amazing. Herbert Gerhard Perseus, Bavaria, says we're in German. Munich. So let's see this one. My Roman isn't very good, I'm afraid. It's amazing how they put it. Must weigh, God knows how many tons that must weigh. God. I like this one.
Is it copies?
Three-dimensional.
The real thing. They're all copies.
Yeah. Not all of them, I doubt.
Yeah.
All copies? Yeah. I like that one, three-dimensional.
Yeah, the original was in Dublin.
Oh, I see. Irish.
Just copies of the real thing.
Oh, I see. Celtic cross, that one, from Ireland. Gaelic. These have got to be real though, surely. These are going to be real, aren't they? I would have thought. Yeah. Cool. It's real. Oh God.
That's why they're here.
Oh, I see.
It's probably very light.
Clever.
Yeah.
Yeah, a shame, yeah. Currently closed, yeah. They're always trying to look after what they've got, I think.
We've seen like...
Do you want to just see the jewellery here very, very quickly? Just
Nice colours.
Oh, beautiful, yeah. And this is more like Celtic sort of necklace, this thing.
So that's the beginning?
Yeah, okay. Egyptian. See, Egyptian, but Roman Empire, because the Romans are in Egypt. I think you find these are originals, ancient Rome, 27 BC. Someone would actually wear that around their neck, you know. Someone would actually put that around their neck.
Yeah.
The Vatican, yeah.
So much gold and
no doubt about
precious
that.
stones and so much money in the bank.
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
They've been saving for 2,000 years.
Portable shrine. You can have your own shrine in your living room. Look, portable shrine.
I mean, look at that. This one here. So that's number one.
Monstrance. What the hell's a monstrance? What's that? Jewelled monstrance. Not being a Catholic, I don't know what these terms refer to.
Just for specific ceremonies. But look at the jewels. I mean, not even the kings and the queens had so many jewels.
Yeah. The Vatican, believe it or not, the Vatican is the only, the Catholic Church is the only religious organisation that's allowed into the United Nations building in New York. Mm-hmm. When I did a tour of there a few years ago. This. Yeah. In the Protestant Church, they have a thing called High Anglican. You heard of High Anglican? The Anglican Church, the Church of England, and it's almost Catholic. You know, they've got the incense, but the only difference is that priests can marry, whereas in the Catholic Church they can't.
Oh, the paintings.
Vow of celibacy, yeah. Also in Egypt. Well, William Blake, all right. Oh. Famous. Shakespeare. This is the Spanish look out in Peru. Los Conquistadores. General Cortes was from Extremadura, wasn't he? The richest part of Spain. Apparently the Spanish were cruel to them. Yeah. Nice. Sculpture in Britain. Look at that. Very rude. They say the miniskirt's coming back into fashion again. These young ladies don't need the miniskirt though, do they? Look. Nothing left to the imagination. John Constable, who painted a lot in Essex. Both Constable and Turner painted in Essex. Salisbury Cathedral. And that's the way it was in 1776. Oh no, 1823. He was born in 1776. There's one very famous Turner Constable work where he's got a boy in a barn, and John Constable. Flatford Mill. That's in Essex, to my knowledge. Must have been a hard but happy life. Very nice. I like the perspective on that one, with the sun, yeah. Empire. Yeah, yeah.